I believe that the American people and their every action are being ruled, regulated, restricted, licensed, registered, checked, inspected, measured, numbered, counted, rated, stamped, censored, authorized, admonished, refused, prevented, drilled, indoctrinated, monopolized, extorted, robbed, hoaxed, fined, harassed, disarmed, dishonored, fleeced, exploited, assessed, and taxed to the point of suffocation and desperation.
Yeah!
America is drowning in a sea of rules and regulations, particularly under the excuse of protecting the environment. We all know something is very wrong, and we're trying to fix it. Many in America attempt to fight against one issue or another as they try to understand what is happening to our country. But most fail to see the whole picture and are being crushed under a well-organized divide and conquer tactic that keeps them reeling from crisis to crisis. First, we've been terrorized into accepting that human society is on the brink of extinction because of man-made global warming. We've been warned that unless we take drastic action to reverse it, then islands will disappear, whole cities will be destroyed, and polar bears will drown. But evidence is growing daily that the charge of man-made global warming is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on the human race. In fact, the ever-growing ClimateGate scandal is now proving beyond doubt that man-made global warming was invented without scientific fact. So if your local elected representatives are now supporting climate change legislation because of a genuine concern for the environment, then they should be greatly relieved to know that true science is showing more and more evidence that there is no man-made global warming, and in fact, a natural cooling period has begun. An overwhelming majority of scientists are now telling us that investigative research shows any warming actually stopped in 1999, and that warming that we had was caused by sunstorms, not man. That's it. It's done. The crisis is over. Man is not to blame. Hooray! And the nation should be rejoicing. We have no need for expensive green cars and mercury-filled light bulbs, and no government-enforced alternative energy, no special energy taxes, no extra government oversight committees, and no need for a climate czar. We can drill American oil and end our dependency on foreigners who hate us. And we can help stop funding terrorists. We are free. The environment is not in crisis. Rejoice! Rejoice! Well, that silence that you hear is the news media which refuses to report anything a skeptic has to say. That silence you hear is the complete ignorance on Capitol Hill, where Congress continues trying to force passage of the worst legislation in the history of the United States, cap and trade, completely ignoring what science is now proving that global warming is a hoax. And that silence you hear is from global corporations which have bought into Al Gore's lie and invested heavily in the promised green economy. Why do they do it? Why do they promote a lie? Because the issue of global warming never was about protecting the environment. It's nothing more than an excuse to enforce global governance on the planet by creating a new global economy based on the environment rather than on goods and services. Cap and trade will throw out the old system of a free market based on goods and services and operate on the idea that CO2 is a pollutant. It is not. In short, it's all about wealth redistribution, your wealth into a green rat hole. Now, during the Cold War, communists tried to get us to surrender our liberties and our way of life to the wisdom of Karl Marx. And Americans didn't buy it. But now, they have taken the same claptrap and wrapped it all in a nice green blanket, scaring us with horror stories about human destruction of the environment. And so now we are throwing our liberties on the bonfire like a good old-fashioned book burning, all in the name of protecting the environment. It sounds so friendly, so meaningful, so urgent. But the devastation to our liberty and our way of life is the same as if Lenin had ordered it himself. Today, we have a new language invading our government at all levels. The typical city council meeting discusses community development, historic preservation, and partnerships between the city and private business. Civic leaders organize community meetings run by facilitators as they outline a vision for the town, enforced by consensus. No need for debate when you have consensus. Free trade, social justice, consensus, global truth, partnerships, preservation, stakeholders, land use, environmental protection, development, diversity, visioning, open space, comprehensive planning, and community service are all part of that new language. The language is being changed and manipulated to quietly implement a very destructive policy. One outline in a UN soft law document called Agenda 21, first revealed at the UN's Earth Summit in 1992. The working name is Sustainable Development. Rather than good management of resources, sustainable development has come to mean denied use and resources locked away from human hands. In short, it has become a code word for an entire economic and social agenda. Interestingly, it is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. It's not liberal or conservative. It is being implemented on a purely bipartisan basis. It is the official policy of the federal government, every state government, and nearly every city and town and county in this nation. So, what is sustainable development? Sustainablest policy focuses on three components: global land use, global education, and global population control. Private property is incompatible with the collective premise of sustainable development. And according to sustainabilists, it is a social injustice for some to have prosperity if others do not. It is a social injustice to keep our borders closed. It is a social injustice for some to be bosses and others to be merely workers. And by the way, Karl Marx was the first to coin the phrase social justice. The fact is, sustainable development is the process by which America is being reorganized around the central principle of state collectivism, using the environment as bait. Maurice Strong, the Secretary General of the UN's Rio Earth Summit in 1992, said, quote, "Current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class," that's supposed to be you, "involving high meat intake, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and work air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable." So how is this wrenching transformation being put into place? There are four very specific routes being used. First, a policy called the Wildlands Project literally calls for the rewilding of 50% of all the land in every state back to the way it was before Christopher Columbus set foot on this land. It's a diabolical plan to herd humans off the rural lands and into human settlements. Crazy, you say? Yeah. Impossible? Not so fast. How do they remove people from the land? One step at a time. Push back livestock's access to riverbanks on ranches. When the cattle can't reach the stream, the rancher can't water them, and he goes out of business. Lock away natural resources by creating national parks. It shuts down the mines, and they go out of business. Invent a spotted owl shortage and pretend it can't live in a forest where timber is cut. Shut off the forest. Then, when no trees are cut and there's nothing to feed the mills and there are no jobs, they too go out of business. Locking away our land cuts the tax base. Everything in the town dies. Keeping it up, there is nothing to keep the people on the land, so they head to the cities and the wilderness grows. And it comes in many names and many programs: heritage areas, land management, wolf and bear reintroduction, rails to trails, conservation easements, open space, and many, many more.